Give me about a half a teacup of bass. Now I need a pound of fatback drums. Now give me 4 tablespoons of ballin' Memphis guitars. This gonna taste all right.
1967, we're talking about the sound that came out of Memphis. Memphis was a huge center of recording in the 50s and in the 60s. Lots of great, obviously Elvis came out of there, Sun Records, and so many great artists came out of Memphis and came out of the South. And there was a certain kind of groove that came out of the South. It was a combination of the soul and the funk, but with the gritty Southern influence in it. And this gentleman on this next tune is called Memphis Soul Stew, and it was by an artist on Atlantic Records named King Curtis. King Curtis was a saxophone player, and he played on a lot of recordings as kind of a sideman in that era. But he had Gene Chrisman play drums on this, and Gene is a drummer from this region of the country, and in fact still lives in Nashville. Recorded on a lot of great stuff with Dusty Springfield and many other artists, and just a funky guy. Well, he played this killer groove on this Memphis Soul Stew, which was very syncopated. Now the groove became more syncopated. This was very much along the lines of a syncopated sort of James Brown, drum part, but didn't sound anything like James Brown because these cats were from Memphis and they had a whole different Southern soul thing going on. Tune starts off with the bass. It's really cool, soulful bass, and then King Curtis says, give me about a pound of fatback drums, and he comes in with this wicked fill. Really cool, funky, syncopated snare part, kick drum part, great fat, old school drum sound. Not a lot of people know who Gene Chrisman is, but he also played on some of the real classic Elvis recordings in the late 60s. A couple of Elvis's most critically acclaimed recordings took place in Memphis in like 60, 67, 68 in there, and he played on a few of those records and just played some great stuff. But anyway, that's Memphis Soul Stew, King Curtis, 1967, Gene Chrisman on the drums. Check it out, and check out that Southern Soul Memphis sound. So this groove, along with pretty much you can count on any groove from the poster, you can't play just what's written on the poster. It's essential to actually hear these records because there's a certain kind of a lope and kind of a swung kind of feel in this funk groove, even though it's not jazz, that doesn't transcribe from the page. So you have to hear it. It's got this funky, like I said, the Southern soul thing had mixtures and elements of blues, of gospel, of jazz, and all those elements combined, with the country and the Southern gospel quartet thing, and it became this really mixture of all these feels. But the drums there's just kind of a magical feel, kind of like the James Brown stuff. You can't see it on paper, you got to hear it. Which reminds me of how many high school jazz band directors have kids playing songs that they've never actually heard the original recording. Now do yourself a favor, no matter any groove on this poster, go to iTunes and download and buy the song, because there's no way to play a song right and get the feel by just looking at the notes on a page. They come to life because there's human beings behind it. There's soulful people playing it. They weren't playing stuff that was written on the page. They were playing stuff that came out of their heart. Then we transcribed it. So it all originates from the heart first. So you got to go and check out the recordings, and the best thing is to just play along with it and emulate it note for note. When you emulate it note for note, you'll find that a lot of these things are harder than they sound, because there's a lot of little nuances and little quirky things and little lopes in the groove that are just kind of naturally occurring, and it's not so easy to copy them. But that's the way to be authentic, is to go and learn it note for note. So enjoy Memphis Soul Stew, Don't eat too much. You could get an upset stomach if you're not used to that type of food. And you might have to take some Tums afterwards or something, because it's too much soul food can get you right off the bat if you're too white and you're just not used to that kind of a diet. You might have to be seen by an emergency physician at some point. Memphis Soul Stew is intoxicating at high levels, high dosages, so we're warning you right off the bat.